How's it going, everyone? BrewUnited here on a Saturday, and today's game, as referenced last Wednesday, is going to be Skies of Arcadia. Now, Skies of Arcadia is one of my favorite games from the Dreamcast era. I believe it came around 2000, 2001, somewhere in there when I ended up getting it. But today's game is actually not going to be played on the Dreamcast because I could not get good video going for that. What I actually did was play it on the GameCube. Now, the GameCube had some issues this morning plugging it up as well. The audio cable I left unplugged, and I was actually troubleshooting it on the computer instead of the most basic. So anyway, that's one of those things you end up doing. You know, troubleshooting the most hard thing first when it's the most simple connection problem. Not even living up to my own advice that I've given people many, many times. So before I dive into the video, I'd actually like to say a big happy birthday to my mom, who turns, I'm not going to say today because, you know, she probably hit me upside the head for saying that. But happy birthday, Mom. And I hope everyone enjoys Skies of Arcadia. So I was a little torn whether to include this beginning part in my video, but then after I watched it a couple of times, you get that whole, you know, hair standing on your arm, and you realize the goosebumps come out from the nostalgia when you originally played the game. I watched on one of the channels that I've recently subscribed to, where the person said nostalgia is one hell of a drug. It's a funny reference at the same time to Dave Chappelle, but it's also so true. You know, nostalgia is one of those things that makes people, I wouldn't say crazy, but people will spend money on nostalgia. You know, when you look at theme parks and you look at games and you look at collectibles, nostalgia really is one of the driving forces for many, many people. Now, the characters here are really memorable. And, you know, when I look at them, I'm drawn back to the time when I played this game nearly 20 years ago. Yeah, 20-ish years ago. And you can tell the people that are clearly not not good. You know, the animation is a bit of the anime with the big eyes. It also is pulling me back in a lot to other games that a lot of these characters have been in. And, you know, some modern games, even as of a couple of years ago, some of these characters are common themes, especially with Sega. So I mentioned a little bit in kind of a prologue to this, that this is really one of my favorite games, but it really isn't a popular game among people who weren't familiar with the Sega Dreamcast and also maybe the Nintendo GameCube. So Sega did this, and it's one of those games that truly does have a little bit of something for everybody. You know, the airships is a theme among many RPGs, Final Fantasy included. And it's one of those really, really, you know, tight stories that you really get pulled into. You know, I can't give it any higher praise than you just got to try it. You know, hit start and dive in. So the game starts off and you see a lone ship being followed by what looks like, you know, just a huge metal ship. Almost reminiscent of the beginning of Star Wars. You know, the small cruiser is being followed by one of the Star Destroyers. And I'm actually putting that together on the fly here. That didn't really occur to me last time, but I've watched a lot of Star Wars recently with The Mandalorian, and I'm having some hope that we might actually get Star Wars back, because I don't know what they did the last 3 movies, but that clearly wasn't what we all expected. But anyway, enough of Star Wars. Let's dive into the game. So Alfonso is one that I don't think you can like. I think they've created such a character here that he's so scummy. And, you know, son of an Imperial family and kind of the Draco Malfoy of this game. So what they're doing here is basically pursuing this character, using concussion bombs, and disabling the ship. and then they drag her in. And at this point, you have no idea who this person is, you know. So it's building suspense. It's really starting to pull you into the story. Clearly, the design of the ship, the way she's dressed, all the different markings, she's not of this world, or not of this society at least, right? So the theme of the Imperial kind of fleet here, and the whole premise of the game to me really falls into kind of a couple of different paths. One is there's kind of good versus evil, which is a common theme in a lot of games that you play. You know, simplistic plots sometimes, but when you play the game, you get pulled in anyway. And here's one of the things I really like about this game, is the character that you end up playing, Vice, is one of the pirates in the game. There's two kind of factions of pirates, and he's of the faction that actually attacks Imperial Armada ships and takes things from them. And when you play Vice, you get the feeling that you can't lose. There's an air of kind of invincibility when you play. And I remember playing through the first time in the game, and there was never a point when I thought I couldn't win a fight, I couldn't win a ship battle, which is actually a part of the game. So what you're seeing here is just kind of a beginning. It's just showing how some of the simple fights start. But the game actually gets to the point where you can do ship versus ship, you can upgrade your airships, and I never felt like I would lose, but at the same time, I never felt that the game was too easy. You know, it was just enough that there were some close calls, and there's a lot of games like this where I could say, is it story driven to the point it's too easy? Is it, you know, action driven to the point it's too hard? This one struck, for me, a really good balance. And it was at a time when I would say 20 years ago, I was probably at my peak of gaming, from a skill set standpoint, and also maybe from a time investment standpoint. You know, there's the old meme that the older you get, you may have more money, but you have less time to spend on gaming. And that is absolutely true. You know, I'm not saying get your gaming in early and, you know, do nothing else, but try to strike a balance throughout your life on these things. That's my TED Talk. Anyway, let's get back to the game. So the two characters here, Ica and also Vice, as I said, are in some other Sega games, but in this game, they are kind of a comic duo that is just completely able to poke fun at things and also always to triumph. You know, like I said, it's just a fantastic game when it comes to that. So if you're watching this video, is this the first time you've seen the game? I'd love to get some of your comments about what you think about it. The fighting that you can see here is reminiscent of a lot of other games. The camera angles come in a little better, I would say, than like the Final Fantasy. The ending is very similar. I would say that Final Fantasy definitely influenced this game somehow. Now, I haven't read up on that, but you can just see the fight, the magic, the items, all of that comes back to those classic games. And I wonder even if the airship kind of influenced it. You know, you wonder if kind of developers that came from one game came with some stories to the other one. Ah, this is one of the great parts. So Dyne is actually Vice's father. And the comedy here just keeps coming. You know, I love how they've got the sarcastic quips and also flintlock weapons. You know, they've got these big airships, they can fly them, but the technology hasn't evolved beyond. These games were such a blend of it. I think I commented that on, what was it, Phantasy Star, where you have interstellar travel, but you're still using spears. It's interesting. So I picked, 20 to 30 minutes of gameplay, and I decided to play through the beginning here to really give you a broad brush of what the game is. So it is the traditional JRPG fighting. It's a bit of open world when you get your own airship, and even now you can see it's a little clunky on the interface here. You know, there's so many improvements that have been made in games, actually, when you go back a little bit. I do love the nostalgic games, but the running around and the camera angles leaves a little bit to be desired. I need to actually check if they made another one after this. So this one came a few years after on the Nintendo GameCube. And I wonder if they actually have improved upon this even further. Because the graphics weren't horrible at the time. I mean, they're clearly a little bit dated now, but definitely still playable. So the person they've kidnapped here ends up becoming a party member of yours and becomes basically part of the 3 that you start with shortly after this, all the way through the end of the game. And there's twists and turns that happen, and you obviously learn, as I alluded to a little bit earlier, that she is not, you know, of the factions of who you see here. She's not an air pirate, she's not part of the Imperials. And you'll see a lot of references to the moon, and they talk about it when they cast spells. And so maybe that's a little bit of a hint, right? As we can tell, Alfonso is clearly a coward. He keeps sending soldier after soldier to us. So although you can't see soldiers after these cutscenes, you do run into random encounters. So the game is very similar to many JRPGs, is when you run around in open world or in certain areas, you're going to run into additional fights. And you're fighting the same type mobs that you're fighting here. You know, not really anything out of the ordinary there. I first popped the game in, and one of the things I remembered is you have the standard attack, you have your defend, you have your items, you have spells, and you also have an S attack, which I believe stands for special attack. And you have to power that up in fights, so it's not something that you get, you know, right off the bat. It's something you have to get some kind of pseudo experience points for by leveling it up in fights. And then you can use it like a charge down counter, so it actually, once you build it up, you can use it. You can see there that we've got 6 of 8, and then when you have enough points for it, it can do kind of a big attack. One thing that I feel when I've been not playing this game and I've just come back to it is that these fights seem a bit more difficult than the Legends version. I think the Dreamcast version, the fights may have been easier. Maybe they tweaked it a little bit and made it harder. That might be entirely in my mind, though. You know, so don't go by my comments there. But it's how I feel. Alright, so looks like we should have cleaned this up. And let us go back after Alfonso. So, leveled up. And there's so many things coming back to me as I level up. Sakri was the healing. Okay, so Aika's got healing. And I believe Vice's first one ends up being... Is it fire? I think is it Pyre? I think it's Pyre. It's funny how the neurons start reconnecting. I was talking to my wife last night, actually, about smells, and smells can bring you back as well. Nostalgia is such a theme for this YouTube channel. And I hope you collectively have similar thoughts, you know. Smells, tastes, things you see, words you hear, people's voices, everything brings you back, you know, to certain times. It's funny, just words like Sakri. It's kind of like a pseudo-Latin word. Maybe it is Latin. I don't know. Showing my ignorance now. The air fights in this game were one of the best parts. You know, I don't think I'm going to have any of that in the early game. I remember it being a really big thing, you know, when you got your first ship and you go off on your own. And those green and different crystals, I think that is what you're protected against when you level up. You can level certain things. Kind of like in Final Fantasy, where you have the different elements and what you can actually block against. Where you have some kind of, not immunity, but you know what I mean. Look how these lights seem to look like ceiling fans with the red alarms. And you can see here, this is the example of just random encounters. You know, you're going to keep fighting the same things. until you ultimately get to Alfonso. Oh, I can't stand Alfonso. Actually, there's some characters in this game you just really will not like. And that's great. You know, it's good to have these characters that build up so much animosity in you that you're like, alright, we're going to take this person down. It's part of the appeal of games for me. Okay, to reference Pokemon, that was super effective. That was Pyre. Just took everything out. We'll take some more of that. And there we go. A little cutscene. Wish we could swing across there. We'll make it to him soon enough. I can promise you we'll at least get to that part within the video. So the video is going to run probably a little shy of 35 minutes today if you include everything end to end. Just a little bit longer than my normal ones. So I have been doing a daily series that might not be for everyone, but I really am looking for a Euden Chronicle coming out in a couple of years. So I do my daily video, and it is really kind of light commentary. This one's obviously pretty heavy commentary, so you're putting up with me in this one, right? And in that one, I'm really just talking about some of my reflections on a couple of points. And here we are outside. We're going to head down the ladder here, and I think this will take us down into the hangar. It's coming back now. When I initially played this, the graphics weren't as different to me as a modern game, because it was a modern game. You know, it's funny going back to games that you thought were way better. There's always jokes about, you know, blocky characters, and Tomb Raider gets a lot of the brunt of that because boxy characters really look strange now. You know, but that was the best they could do with polygons at the time anyway. You know, all the upscaling that's possible still doesn't really make the game look that much better. It'll smooth some edges, it'll take some pixels out, but, you know, a polygon or a boxy looking thing will remain. It's not going to actually change. One of the things I am excited about is going to be, you know, any game that gets the Final Fantasy VII treatment. You know, I've actually watched a few YouTube channels that talk about the same thing. I think that is, I don't know if it's the gold standard, but it's definitely up there. I mean, that is probably the best remake I've ever seen. Now, one thing I'm actually really worried about that game is when the next part's coming out. You know, they got you through a third or a fourth of the game, and, you know, let's imagine this game got that treatment, or any game gets that treatment. It's almost you should go ahead and do the whole game, you know, but I don't know the amount of work that must have went into that, but it was ridiculous. So it's a complete rebuild, and I think that's risky. And there's a lot of conversations going on right now about Mass Effect, you know, 1, 2, and 3. 2 and 3 stand up to modern games, but when you go to Mass Effect 1, wow, that's a painful game. Okay, so you just seen Alfonso really showing his true self, you know, killing an unarmed person, and this is where you start seeing Vice's... Vice is such a... Vice seems almost like a name where you go, he has a vice. Yeah, but his vice is that he doesn't put up with unhonorable things. You know, that's a common theme. So you kind of have the split between honorable pirate and really Vice being that person. You know, a complete honorable, despite the profession of stealing and thieving people's cargo. Okay, this is like the oddest looking thing. And I remember this being a little bit of a pain when I first played the game. And they've made it slightly harder the second playthrough here. You know, that would just kind of trample you, but it ends up also having a lightning attack. And the other thing is this creature actually has a really annoying counterattack. So you're going to attack it, it'll do that right back to you. And it's a good thing we had actually a couple of healing and magic refill kits there, because we're going to need it. I don't have enough magic to kind of cure myself without it, and I don't have really any way to refill my magic without getting a couple of those. So the magic droplets are actually the ones that'll give me back at least kind of a couple of mana points, so to speak. And the sacred crystals are the ones that'll actually heal you. So that was a little preemptive of me to use that. But it's better to be ahead, because actually when I was playing, I did not remember how much damage that this thing can do. And we're about to see that firsthand here. So 192, that would actually brought me probably down to 100. So, you know, I wouldn't have died, but I would have at least have immediately healed myself. So, a little ahead of the curve's not a big deal. And we're going to make this not too bad of a fight. We'll get through it pretty well. So here you can see I'm attacking just regular physical attack and get a counterattack. We actually are able to counterattack as well, but you can't just keep counterattacking counterattacks. You know, keep going back and forth. That would be really annoying. Just somebody would drop. Probably Vice, because that creature hits just a little bit harder. So I do like the boomerang attack, and that doesn't seem to draw the counter as often as Vice's just regular sword attack does. So Pyre actually is way more impressive when you class that a lot of characters could be on the screen, you could hit them. Ooh, that's close. Yeah, I'm actually really low there. So I do not have enough magic with him, and I can't do my S move because I haven't built up enough. See, I need 6 of 8. But I'm going to have to heal myself here, because if not, I mean, he just needs to sneeze on me next and I'll die. Now, what I don't remember is that third character that's the current hostage. I think she's the main healer, and I think she's actually really good at it. I kind of have her in the mindset of Summoner, but, you know, it's just probably all my Final Fantasy games that I've played over the years. Let's bring it back now that both Vice and Ica are in Valkyria Chronicles. I think the third one. And they're actually really good in that game. So, you know, when they showed up in the game, I had no idea when I first played that game that they were in it. And they're great characters in this game, but they're really fun in that game too. You know, they do a lot of damage and they can run. And I think one of them's a sniper. I can never remember which one is which, but they're both really good. Nothing like getting critted, right? And here we go. We actually have the Cutlass Fury. So that attack hopefully won't kill. Nope. Okay, we get the counter. Ah, the counterattack does work. Look at that. Didn't expect that to happen. Here we have the Cutlass Fury. So let's watch this attack. And this should finish him off. I don't think we have any chance of him surviving this. That's cool. And he is done. It's almost a shame we had to fight him. We could use him. You know, Alfonso is not deserving of a creature that can do that much damage, because he's a big wimp. And from that, we're definitely going to get some levels. Yeah, I was about to say, you can't beat a boss, you know, at level 2 and not level up. Moonberry. What does that do again? It's like playing the game for the first time again. Alfonso has such a punchable face. They really were good at creating characters that you both did not like and the ones that you really loved. I mean, this group of pirates is definitely a group that you got to play the game. If you haven't played the game, every single mission you go on with them, you'll like them more. The banter between them is hilarious. Those pigtails really stick out. I wonder what she puts in them. Let's put like a wire or something to hold them out. So I'd imagine they hadn't taken down, you know, a ship this big in a while. I think it's funny, you have this big metal ship, and then you have, you know, their wooden ship that basically comes over and then latches onto it. So here they're referencing that basically, you know, where she's from. She clearly doesn't look anything like the rest of the characters in this game. I think this is a little flashback of hers It's a pretty nice flat screen TV there. That's Fina, that's her name. Fina. Is she from the moon? I think she might be. Maybe that's the plot. I can't remember if she's from the moon or somehow affiliated with it. Yeah, if you played this game, you know. And if you haven't played this game, maybe you can Google it, because this video may not give away that secret. Because I don't remember it, to be honest. Okay, so we got through that flashback. Or dream that she was having, I guess. And I remember this scene. They look so goofy. That would really be terrifying if you woke up kind of in our world with people staring over you like that. You know, this really has such a vibe of Final Fantasy. That's probably why I really like this game so much. Actually, you know, we're talking about Final Fantasy VII earlier, and she really has that vibe of Aerith. Or Aerith, depending on when you played the game. It was both, wasn't it? I think it was both due to a pronunciation difference in the translation. Maybe it was spelling translation, I can't remember. There was a funny story about it, though. So here she's introducing herself as Fina. And, yeah, let's say that's a great name. And the one thing that Weiss will get completely ribbed about the entire game is how he has no clue about lots of things. Apparently how to compliment people. And he has a lot to learn about women, according to Aika. Aika. That was a song too, wasn't it? So here they're giving a little bit of the backstory of the air pirates, so she clearly is not familiar with the way that things work. So they're going to explain. So there's black pirates and there's blue pirates, and the blue pirates are more about, as I mentioned earlier, stealing from the Imperials and attacking really well-armed ships. And the black pirates in the game are the ones who would just, you know, they take from everyone. And I think you meet them and you ally with them, if I'm not mistaken. You know, and then ultimately, the main people you're against is going to be the Imperials. And I think they do some horrible things. I mean, there's so many of the typical plot devices that you'll see in these types of games. You know, again, it's not a complex story, but it's one that it's got enough hook to keep you in, you know, and to keep you interested in the story. And here he goes, you know, it's very like rob from the rich, give to the poor type thing. So, you know, common themes that we're all familiar with and comfortable with. Just sitting there looking at his eye patch and thinking how funny it is, because it's actually crystal clear. So why does he have it, you know? It would be really cool if they did a flip back to it and he has some type of real crazy technology in it. So here's one of the things that, you know, when you start the game, you think that Weiss is probably, you know, one of the leaders, and ultimately he's just a member of the crew of Dine, who is his father, as the captain's team. And here they just leave her there. Oh, don't worry, just here, rest up. You know, if I were her, I'd get up and walk around. Go explore the ship. Because it kind of feels like she's a bit of a hostage. Now this is the thing I don't remember of what you can actually click on and pick up. Okay, so that's not something we can get. Okay, there's nothing we can get. I normally spam in all these types of games, you know, whatever the select button is, A or B or X, or, you know, depending on the system. Because some games, it's completely apparent on what you can click on and what you can pick stuff up in, but these games, not so much. Dine is one tough cookie. This is definitely where he's treading the line between being your father and also being your captain. So what do you think about the game so far? Is this a game that you've played before? Is it a game you've not played before? I'd love to hear your comments on that. Also, the thing I have been thinking about picking up is a better cable for the GameCube. I don't have a lot of games for the GameCube, but it's the original one I've had for many years. I picked it up, and I forget what system was out at the time, but I didn't really pick up a lot of games for it. Kind of regret that, because the game prices... I don't know if everyone listening to this is in the same boat, but game prices are just absolutely crazy. I guess they always have been. Game prices have kind of been the same for a while. Looks like they're creeping up now. That used to be that 30 to 40 range. 30 to 50 was normal. Now it's what? Up to 70? And then, you know, if it's a collector's edition, you know, you might have to have a second mortgage. I don't know. So this is the first dive you get into piloting your own ship. Not really your own ship, but they're giving you the chance. So this is kind of more of the game, you know. It's a bit more open world. There's not a lot of options that you can do, you know, but there's a lot of ship-to-ship battles. And here we have Pirate Isle. So this is the home of the Blue Pirates, or this particular band of Blue Pirates anyway. And we're coming a little close to the point where I'm gonna stop the video. This is gonna be kind of a great intro to, you know, there's fighting, there's a bit of the piloting of the ships. I think if it would have been, you know, 35 or 40 minutes where you can actually have a ship-to-ship battle, would have played it a little bit longer, or maybe even edited it. I mean, this is kind of pop in the game, start from the beginning, and this is complete game through to the 30-odd minute mark, so I haven't actually edited anything out. I would not feel comfortable standing on an airship. No safety, anything, right? Not that you really need tons of safety stuff. I think sometimes we've all grown up in a time when it was a bit more unsafe, but, you know, we just knew not to do certain things. Now it seems like if there's not safety devices, people get a little bit more scared. Child of the 80s. That's who I am. But it's very odd. Little floating island there. Look how everyone just considers that normal. Maybe in this world it is, you know. Floating things are natural. What makes that thing float? What makes the island float? I have so many questions playing this game again. I get the feeling when I'm playing this, because I'm also doing a series on Suikoden, you know, the interesting part of that is having a base. You have a place to go back to. Alright, that looks completely crazy now. This floating island has this huge door. Yeah, that's a bit improbable. Yeah, it's a fun game anyway. Don't judge the game by, you know, its odd physics. Judge it by the characters and the gameplay and the music. I think the music is part of the thing that really pulls you in here. Alright, we're getting really close to the end here. I'd like to thank you for watching this gameplay, you know, to this point. Also for all of you that, you know, continually watch my channel, and if you're new to it, hey, I appreciate you watching this far as well. And these videos are really, like I said, to foster nostalgia or to create, you know, some awareness of a game that maybe you weren't born into, you know, and to pull you back in. That's really what my goal is with every one of these videos. So if you haven't played it, maybe there's a way you can get a copy of it. Nintendo's probably, the GameCube is an expensive option, but, you know, if you play ROMs, hey, good for you too. Hope you enjoy playing it. So thanks again, everyone. I hope you're safe. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and we'll see you on the daily video, on my Wednesday video for pickups and showing what I'm playing on Saturday, and always on kind of my longer playthroughs on Saturday videos. So take care, and we'll see you soon.